Hi, I've not released any videos for a little while, and it's because I've been having a bit of a crisis. I've been thinking a lot about the fact that I've really got to get my act together. Now, I quite like that phrase. I prefer it to something like find my identity as an artist, because, well, that one makes me feel lots of pressure. And, the word act, it's all right. Artist is such a loaded word. It's kind of difficult to define as well. The word art isn't hard to define. I'd say art is anything that we create that has meaning, that has some kind of sincere expression, or at least something that is filtered or processed through our own unique perspective. Something that we then choose to frame as art, something we call art. And by that token, I suppose an artist then is just a person who makes art. And the last time I checked, I was a person. I'm not an alien, so we're all artists. The minute anything sincere or personally significant comes out of us and we decide to call it art, so I can relax. I'm definitely an artist by default. So what am I worried about? I'm definitely an artist. I'm definitely a musician, but I'm becoming more and more painfully aware that I don't have a clearly defined, congruent, recognizable act, an identity, a genre, a looks like, he sounds like sense of what kind of artist I am. Now, I've got quite broad tastes as a musical consumer, and being a fluent musician means that I understand how music is put together, regardless of the style. I can do it in pretty much any style. So that means if I were to create or to share every creation, every whim that I have, to put it out there as an artist, my output would be very eclectic. And I think that would be a problem for me. I think it's an issue because I don't really know how to present myself as an eclectic artist. I don't feel as if I quite fit the perception of that. I don't know. Because I can't penetrate the mystery of how to appear like a bona fide eclectic artist. I think what happens is the result of doing that, of indulging my varied taste too much in my output, it tends to make me look more like a jobbing musician, if you know what I mean, than an artist, more like some kind of jack of all trades, or perhaps even amateurish, a bit of a dilettante. Yikes. I really want to be taken seriously as an artist, you see. This is the thing. I don't want to be a jobbing musician. So I think they matter, things like perception, image, brand. Although I have to say those sort of words make me feel a bit queasy. I mean, really, I just want to say something true with my music. I just want to say something that I feel deeply. Music's the language of the soul. I just want to express myself, express my feelings, my innermost experience of living, to communicate what it means to be alive, to be human in the world today, in this complex world, and to maybe offer some kind of genuine solace or catharsis. And all that feels completely at odds with thinking about how I come across, about the kind of surface perceptions that people might have of me and my work. Makes me self-conscious. But you see, I have to think about these things if I want my music to be a product in the marketplace that people understand. Oh my goodness, words like product and marketplace, they can make icicles form in my blood. But I've kind of got to get over myself. Don't you think? By being puritanically against things like that, puritanically against all aspects of the music industry that I suppose I would call egocentric, ego indulging, all about status and stuff. By being against that, I'm just in a way indulging my ego. I mean, I've got to accept it, haven't I? I live in the world as it is, right? I don't live in some kind of ideal utopia of equality and cooperation where compassion and mutual effort are prized above personal profit and competitive success. I can dream, but in reality, and as an industrious musician working in that reality, I need to participate in the real world, in the music industry as it is. So to get my music into the ears of the people who would enjoy it, It needs to look like something that they can recognize and trust. So that's what I'm working on. That's what I've been thinking about. And I'm doing my best to keep it completely separate, a separate process from my creativity as far as I possibly can. I just can't embrace the notion of creating music as a product during the act of creation. It's got to be an act of expressing or telling for me. But I think I can define some boundaries around what kinds of pieces or songs work together congruently according to some clear parameters. I just need to keep that simple. And if I can do that, then that's my act. So maybe an act is a bit like a restaurant or a menu, because, they're carefully designed. The food itself is created by the chef, who is like the artist. Now, I'm not saying that there's no creativity or artistry in the design of the restaurant or menu. Of course there is, but it's separate. It's a separate thing from the artistry of the food creation. Now I'm feeling hungry. So far, I've only ever released music under the name Phil Best, which is perhaps not surprising because it's my name, but names can deceive, I became a classical musician, a classical pianist, not so much by choice as by virtue of being a neurotic person, a neurotic child, a child who craved the approval of his very strict parents. My parents were classical music and all the genres hating parents, and they were very strict about it. And out of all that, I struggled to enjoy other kinds of music. But really, of all the kinds of music that I enjoy and sometimes create, I'd say that a progressive, jazzy, soulful pop style is the one closest to my heart. Not really classical, as much as I like classical. And also, as a classical pianist, it's kind of confusing if the perception of a classical pianist in our culture isn't really someone who uses loads of technology and who improvises and who plays with a very strong feeling of groove, all of which I do. So that means that Phil Best, the act, could do with some redefining or redesigning. I could do with building a more perceptible indication or building perceptible indicators of being a classical musician with a difference, with a twist, perhaps even with a rebellious streak, rebellious tendencies. And as for the progressive jazzy soulful pop, well, I think it needs to be a totally different act. So I'm currently developing it using the name Louise Harrison. Louise Harrison was my grandma's name, and she was a huge champion of my music, all the music that I create, including my improvisation, jazzy stuff, everything, unlike my parents. And I think taking her name is, it's a good idea. It's a masculine form of her name, obviously, but it feels like her name, and it's very inspiring to me. But the truth is, I've been thinking about developing the Louis Harrison project for ages now. I always end up getting a bit confused and a bit unmotivated. So I think what keeps happening is that the production of the act starts to interfere or infect the creation of the music, which always would cause my inspiration to take a bit of a nosedive. So now that I'm choosing to see this act creation as just a set of parameters, more like superficial guidelines or a kind of filter for what's included on the menu and what isn't, my hope is that I can keep on creating music with the necessary freedom, the freedom that I need. Louis Harrison then is just an act. He's me in the guise of someone who makes that kind of music. I mean, I make that kind of music, but it's just limiting to that kind of music so that it's specific and recognizable. A bit of an identity. Maybe he should wear a certain kind of hat or have a catchphrase like jazzy progressive soul music's the game, Louis the name. Well, it's not, is it? It's Phil really. I don't think catchphrase is the answer, but anyway, I'll keep working on it because obviously, all of this for me is kind of work in progress. It's a new way of thinking, really. I think I've always been a bit a bit independent, a bit too independent, really. And I'm determined to do this. I'm determined to have a go at this, but I want to keep it very light and playful. As grown up as it feels, I want to keep it light. And I want to keep sharing what I'm doing on here so that, it doesn't get heavy. I don't want it to get heavy. And my hope is that by doing that, in this way, by getting my both acts together in this way, by defining them, by solidifying them, it will actually, help my creativity and inspiration. It'll be enhanced, not stunted or kind of pressurized. Because I know I've got to keep my mind away from the temptation to try and design the musical results to fit the acts, because that's the wrong creative direction for me. It just doesn't work. I must remain firmly focused on simply telling my truth, spontaneously telling my truth using musical language. So there you go. That's it. Thinking in terms of having two clearly delineated professional acts to operate as kind of containers for my music to share it. It's a very new experience for me. Let's see what happens. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this funny little video talk, and maybe you've even got something from it for yourself. And I'll be back soon.